Part 10. I add it just to put something colorful. Part 10. If you get a true understanding of the thought contained in part 10, you will have learned. In the previous chapter, we read a page even yet of this chapter, but we start again. I don't even remember because it was really late night. If you get a true understanding of the thought contained in part 10, you will have learned that nothing happens without a definite cause. You will be enabled to formulate your plans in accordance with exact knowledge. You will know how to control any situation by bringing adequate causes into play. The ordinary man, who has no definite knowledge of cause and effect, is governed by his feelings over emotions. He thinks chiefly to justify his action. If he fails as a businessman, he says that luck is against him. If he dislikes music, he says that music is an expensive luxury. If he is a poor office man, he says that he could succeed better at some outdoor work. If he lacks friends, he says his individuality is too fine to be appreciated. He never thinks his problem through to the end. In short, he does not know that every effect is the result of a certain definite cause, but he seeks to console himself with explanation and excuses. He thinks only in self-defense. I was trying to put the volume a little bit down because I don't know if you see that I'm listening to a fantasy playlist, but I don't know if we will go in copyright. But I don't think that you hear it because it's really low. On the contrary, the man who understands that there is no effect without an adequate cause thinks impersonally. He gets down to bedrock facts regardless of consequences. He is free to follow the trail of truth wherever it may lead. He sees the issues clear to the end, and he meets the requirements fully and fairly, and the result is that the world gives him all that he has to give in friendship, honor, love, and approval. Abundance is a natural law of the universe. The evidence of this law is conclusive. We see it on every hand. Everywhere, nature is lavish, wasteful, extravagant. Nowhere is economy observed in any created thing. Profusion is manifested in everything. The millions and millions of trees and flowers and plants and animals, and the vast scheme of reproduction where the process of creating and recreating is forever going on, all indicates the lavishness with which nature has made provision for man. That there is an abundance for everyone is evident, but that many fail to participate in this abundance is also evident. They have not yet come into a realization of the universality of all substance, and that mind is the active principle whereby we are related to the things we desire. Knowledge of cause and effect are shown by the laws governing electricity, chemical affinity, and gravitation, enables man to plan courageously and execute fearlessly. These laws are called natural laws because they govern in the physical world, but all power is not physical power. There is also mental power, and there is moral and spiritual power. Spiritual power is superior because it exists on a higher plane. It has enabled man to discover the law by which these wonderful forces of nature could be harnessed and made to do the work of hundreds and thousands of men. It has enabled man to discover laws whereby time and space are being annihilated on the law of gravitation to be overcome. The operation of this law is dependent upon spiritual contact, as Eric Drummond well says. In the physical world, as we know it, there exist the organic and the inorganic. The inorganic of the mineral world is absolutely cut off from the plant or animal world. The passage is hermetically sealed. These barriers have never yet been crossed. No change of substance, no modification of environment, no chemistry, no electricity, no form of energy, no evolution of any kind can ever endue a single atom of the mineral world with the attribute of life. And now, yesterday we stopped here, and I was so half asleep that I didn't even remember what you were saying. And now I go to prepare myself some coffee because I made just the coconut milk. Because yesterday I went to sleep really late since I had to take the chinchilla from the woman that gifted me. And now I thought I could go on without coffee since I just wake up, but I guess it's better if I take it. So wait for me. Eccomi. Allora, only by bending down into the dead world of some living form can those dead atoms be gifted with the properties of vitality. Without this contact with life, they remain fixed in the inorganic sphere forever. Huxley says that the doctrine of biogenesis, or life only from life, is victorious all along the line. And Tyndall is compelled to say, I affirm that no shred of trustworthy evidence exists to prove that life in our day has ever appeared independent of antecedent life. Physical laws may explain the inorganic. Biology explains and accounts for the development of the organic. But of the point of contact, science is silent. A similar passage exists between the natural world and the spiritual world. This passage is hermetically sealed on the natural side. The door is closed, no man can open it. No organic change, no mental energy, no moral effort, no progress of any kind can enable any human being to enter the spiritual world. It's not true we can with astral projection. But, well, it's a part, not really the deep side. But as the plant reaches down into the mineral world and touches it with the mystery of life, so the universal mind reaches down into the human mind and endows it with new, strange, wonderful, and even marvelous qualities. All men or women who have ever accomplished anything in the world of industry, commerce, or art have accomplished it because of this process. Thought is the connecting link between the infinite and the finite, between the universal and the individual. We have seen that there is an impassable barrier between the organic and the inorganic. We have seen and that the only way that matter can unfold is to be impregnated with life. As a seed reaches down into the mineral world and begins to unfold and reach out, the dead matter begins to live. 1,000 invisible fingers begin to wave a suitable environment for the new arrival. And as the law of growth begins to take effect, we see the process continue until the lily finally appears. And even Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these. Even so, a thought is dropped into the invisible substance of the universal mind, that substance from which all things are created, and as it takes root, the law of growth begins to take effect, and we find that conditions and environment are but the objective form of our thought. The law is that thought is an active, vital form of dynamic energy, which has the power to correlate with its object and bring it out of the invisible substance from which all things are created into the visible or objective world. This is the law by which and through which all things come into manifestation. It is the master key by which you are admitted into the secret place of the Most High and are given dominion over all things. With an understanding of this law, you may decree a thing, and it shall be established unto thee. It could not be otherwise if the soul of the universe, as we know it, is the universal spirit, then the universe is simply the condition which the universal spirit. We are simply individualized spirit and creating the conditions for our growth in exactly the same way as in a lucid dream, I add. Imagine that this life basically is your lucid dream, you know? This creative power depends upon our recognition of the potential power of spirit or mind and must be not confused with evolution. Creation is the calling into existence of that which does not exist in the objective world. Evolution is simply the unfolding of potentialities involved in things which already exist. In taking advantage of the wonderful possibilities opened up to us through the operation of this law, we must remember that we ourselves contribute nothing to its efficacy, as the great teacher said. It is not I that does the work, but the Father that dwelt in me. He does the work. We must take exactly the same position. We can do nothing to assist in the manifestation. We simply comply with the law, and the all originating mind will bring about the result. The great error of the present day is the idea that man has to originate the intelligence whereby the infinite can proceed to bring about a specific purpose or result. Nothing of this kind is necessary. The universal mind can be depended upon to find the ways and means for bringing about any necessary manifestation. We must, however, create the ideal, and this ideal should be perfect. We know that the laws governing electricity have been formulated in such a way that this invisible power can be controlled and used for our benefit and comfort in thousands of ways. We know that messages are carried around the world, that ponderous machinery does its bidding, that it now illuminates practically the whole world, but we know too that if we consciously or ignorantly violate this law by touching a live wire when it is not properly insulated, the results will be unpleasant and possibly disastrous. A lack of understanding of the laws governing the invisible world has the same result, and many are suffering the consequences all the time. It has been explained that the law of causation depends upon polarity. A circuit must be formed. The circuit cannot be formed unless we operate in harmony with the law. How shall we operate in harmony with the law unless we know what the law is? How shall we know what the law is? By study, by observation. We see the law in operation everywhere. All nature testifies to the operation of the law by silently, constantly expressing itself in the law of growth. Where there is growth, there must be life. Where there is life, there must be harmony, so that everything that has life is constantly attracting to itself the condition and the supply which is necessary for its most complete expression. If your thought is in harmony with the creative principle of nature, it is in tune with the infinite mind, and it will form the circuit. It will not return to you void. But it is possible for you to think thoughts that are not in tune with the infinite. And when there is no polarity, the circuit is not formed. What then is the result? What is the result when a dynamo is generating electricity, the circuit is cut off and there is no outlet? Then the dynamo stops. It will be exactly the same with you. If you entertain thoughts which are not in accordance with the infinite and cannot therefore be polarized, There is no circuit, you are isolated. The thoughts cling to you, harass you, worry you. The physician may not diagnose the case exactly in this way. He may give it some fancy name, which has been manufactured for the various ills, which are the result of wrong thinking, but the cause is the same nevertheless. Constructive thought must necessarily be creative, but creative thought must be harmonious, and this eliminates all destructive or competitive thoughts. Now I go to take my coffee that must be ready, I guess. If you're home and it's a cozy afternoon even to you, I suggest you, if you listen to me, to make a cozy beverage even you. I have now here with me a cozy hot coffee. Dunque, wisdom, strength, courage, and all harmonious conditions are the result of power, and we have seen that all power is from within. Likewise, every lack, limitation, or adverse circumstance is the result of weakness, and weakness is simply, it comes from nowhere, it is nothing. The remedy then is simply to develop power, and this is accomplished in exactly the same manner that all power is developed, by exercise. This exercise consists in making an application of your knowledge. Knowledge will not apply itself. You must make the application. Abundance will not come to you out of the sky, neither will it drop into your lap, but a conscious realization of the law of attraction and the intention to bring it into operation for a certain, definite, and specific purpose, and the will to carry out this purpose, will bring about the materialization of your desire by a natural law of transference. If you are in business, it will increase and develop along regular channels. Possibly new or unusual channels of distribution will be opened, and when the law becomes fully operative, you will find that the things you seek are seeking you. This week, select a blank space on the wall, or any other convenient spot from where you usually sit. Mentally draw a black horizontal line, about 6 inches long. Try to see the line as plainly as though it were painted on the wall. Now, mentally draw 2 vertical lines connecting with this horizontal line at either end. Now draw another horizontal line connecting with the 2 vertical lines. Now you have a square. Oh, okay. Try to see, I was thinking like the game, I don't know the name in English, where you have to put the circles and the X. Try to see the square perfectly. When you can do so, draw a circle within the square. Now place a point in the center of the circle. Now draw the point toward you about 10 inches. Now you have a cone on a square base You will remember that your work was all in black, changing to white, to red, to yellow. If you can do this, you are making excellent progress and will soon be enabled to concentrate on any problem you may have in mind. When any object or purpose is clearly held in thought, its precipitation in tangible and visible form is merely a question of time. The vision always precedes and itself determines the realization. Lillian Whiting. I should put the light on. The light on. Let's stay another little bit like this. I will sip a second of my coffee. I have even the little oven on. No oven. Don't know the name in English for the heat. The stove. I'm still a little bit sleepy from yesterday. This is from something that I bought. Part 11. You know what? I would like to change my position. Put myself more cozy. Here you see the cage that I took the chinchilla. Oh, let's light up. Spoon up. Just take the little one. I will make the little more cute, see? I have more coffee. Right. Part 11. Your life will make your hair even the mugger. She looks more cozy. Your life is governed by law, by actual immutable principle that never vary. Law is in operation at all times, in all places. Fixed laws underlie all human actions. For this reason, men who control giant industries are enabled to determine with absolute precision just what percentage of every 100,000 people will respond to any given set of conditions. It is well, however, to remember that while every effect is the result of a cause, the effect in turn becomes a cause, which creates other effects, which in turn create still other causes, so that when you put the law of attraction into operation, you must remember that you are starting a train of causation for good or otherwise, which may have endless possibilities. We frequently hear it said, "A very distressing situation came into my life. which could not have been the result of any of my thought, as I certainly never entertained any thought which could have such a result. We fail to remember that like attracts like in the mental world, and that the thought which we entertain brings to us certain friendships, companionships of a particular kind, and this in turn bring about conditions and environment, which in turn are responsible for the conditions of which we complain. Wait a second. Inductive reasoning is the process of the objective mind by which we compare a number of separate instances with one another until we see the common factor that gives rise to them all. Induction proceeds by comparison of facts. It is this method of studying nature which has resulted in the discovery of a reign of law which has marked an epoch in human progress. It is the dividing line between superstition and intelligence. It has eliminated the elements of uncertainty and caprice from men's lives and substituted law, reason, and certitude. It is the watchman at the gate mentioned in a former lesson. When, by virtue of this principle, the world to which the senses were accustomed had been revolutionized, when the sun had been arrested in his course, the apparently flat earth had been shaped into a ball and set whirling around him, when the inert matter had been resolved into active elements, and the universe presented itself wherever we directed the telescope and microscope, full of force, motion, and life, we are constrained to ask by what possible means the delicate forms of organization in midst of it are kept in order and repair. I want to finish this chapter, read another while I sip my coffee, but then I really needed to sleep because I'm still sleepy till from the morning, this morning that I had to wait for the chinchillat so late. Like poles and like forces, repels themselves or remain impenetrable to each other, and this cause seems in general sufficient to assign a proper place and distance to stars. Men and forces, as men of different virtues enter into partnership, so do opposite poles attract each other. Elements that have no property in common, like acids and gases, cling to each other in preference, and the general exchange is kept up between the surplus and the demand. As the eye seeks and receives satisfaction from colors complementary to those which are given, so does need, want, and desire, in the largest sense, induce, guide, and determine action. It is our privilege to become conscious of the principle and act in accordance with it. Cuvier sees a tooth belonging to an exist race of animals. This tooth wants a body for the performance of its function, and it defines the peculiar body it stands in need of with such precision that Cuvier is able to reconstruct the frame of this animal. Perturbations are observed in the motion of Uranus. Leverrier needs another star at a certain place to keep the solar system in order. And Neptune appears in the place and hour appointed. The instinctive wants of the animal and the intellectual wants of Cuvier, the wants of nature and of the mind of Leverrier, were alike, and thus the results. Yet the talks of an existence, they are an existence. A well-defined lawful want, therefore, furnishes the reason for the more complex operations of nature. Having recorded correctly the answers furnished by nature, and stretched our senses with the growing science over her surface, having joined hands with the levers that move the earth, we become conscious of such a close, varied and deep contact with the world without, that our wants and purposes become no less identified with the harmonious operations of this vast organization than the life, liberty, and happiness of the citizens is identified with the existence of his government. As the interest of the individual, you can't hear it now, but in this music there is such a cute melody. As the interests of the individual are protected by the arms of the country, added to his own, and his needs may depend upon certain supply in the degree that they are felt more universally and steadily, in the same manner, does conscious citizenship in the Republic of Nature secure us from the annoyances of subordinate agents by alliance with superior powers, and by appeal to the fundamental laws of resistance or inducement offered to mechanical or chemical agents, distribute the labor to be performed between them and men to the best advantage of the inventor. If Plato could have witnessed the pictures executed by the sun with the assistance of the photographer, or 100 similar illustrations of what man does by induction, he would perhaps have been reminded of the intellectual midwifery of his master, and, in his own mind, might have arisen the vision of a land where all manual mechanical labor and repetition is assigned to the power of nature, where our wants are satisfied by purely mental operations set in motion by the will, and where the supply is created by the demand. However distant the land may appear, induction has taught man to make strides toward it, and has surrounded him with benefits which are at the same time rewards for past fidelity and incentives for more assiduous devotion. It is also an aid in concentrating and strengthening our faculties for the remaining part, giving unerring solution for individual as well as universal problems by the mere operations of mind in the purest form. Here we find the method, the spirit of which is to believe that what is sought has been accomplished. In order to accomplish it, a method bequeathed upon us by the same Plato who, outside of this sphere, could never find how the ideas became realities. This conception is also elaborated by Swedenborg in his Doctrine of Correspondences, and a still greater teacher has said, "What things soever you desire when you pray, believe that you receive them, and you shall have them." The difference of these tenses in this passage is remarkable. We are forced to believe this is a conscious direction for making use of the creative power of thought, by impressing on the universal subjective mind the particular thing, as an already existing fact. We are thus thinking on the plan of the absolute and eliminating all consideration of conditions or limitations, and are planting a seed which, if left undisturbed, will finally germinate into external fruition. To review, inductive reason is the process of the objective mind by which we compare a number of separate instances with one another until we see the common factor that gives rise to them all. We see people in every civilized country on the globe securing results by some process which they do not seem to understand themselves, and to which they usually attach more or less mystery. Our reason is given to us for the purpose of ascertaining the law by which these results are accomplished. The operation of this thought process is seen in those fortunate natures that possess everything that others must acquire by toil, who never have a struggle with conscience because they always act correctly, and can never conduct themselves otherwise than with tact, learn everything easily, complete everything. They begin with a happy knack, live in eternal harmony with themselves without ever reflecting much what they do, or ever experiencing difficulty or toil. The fruit of this thought is, as it were, a gift of the gods, but a gift which few yet realize, appreciate, or understand. The recognition of the marvelous power which is possessed by the mind under proper conditions, and the fact that this power can be utilized, directed, and made available for the solution of every human problem is of transcendental importance. All truth is the same, whether stated in modern scientific terms or in the language of apostolic times. There are timid souls who fail to realize that the very completeness of truth requires various statements, that no human formula will show every side of it. Changing empathizing, new language, novel interpretations, unfamiliar perspectives are not, as some suppose, signs of departure from truth, but, on the contrary, they are evidence that the truth is being apprehended in relations to human needs and is becoming more generally understood. The truth must be taught to each generation and to every people in new and different terms, so that when the great teacher said, "Believe that you received, and you shall receive," or when Paul said, "Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen," or when modern science says, "The law of attraction is the law by which thought correlates with its object." Each statement, when subjected to analysis, is found to contain exactly the same truth, the only difference being in the form of presentation. We are standing on the threshold of a new era. The time has arrived when man has learned the secrets of mastery and the way is being prepared for a new social order, more wonderful than anything every heretofore dreamed of. The conflict of modern science with theology, the study of comparative religions, the tremendous power of new social movements, all of these are but clearing the way of the new order. They may have destroyed traditional forms which have become antiquated and impotent, but nothing of value has been lost. A new faith has been born, a faith which demands a new form of expression, and this faith is taking form in a deep consciousness of power which is being manifested in the present spiritual activity found on every hand. The spirit, which sleeps in the mineral, breathes in the vegetable, moves in the animal, and reaches its highest development in man, is the universal mind, and it behoves us to span the gulf between being and doing, theory and practice, by demonstrating our understanding of the dominion which we have been given. By far the greatest discovery of all the centuries is the power of thought. The importance of this discovery has been a little slow in reaching the general consciousness, but it has arrived, and already in every field of research, the importance of this greatest of all great discoveries is being demonstrated. You ask, in what does the creative power of thought consist? It consists in creating ideas, and these in turn objectify themselves by appropriating, inventing, observing, discerning, discovering, analyzing, ruling, governing, combining, and applying matter and force. It can do this because it has an intelligent creative power. Thought reaches its loftiest activity when plunged into its own mysterious depth, when it breaks through the narrow compass of self and passes from truth to the region of eternal light, where all which is, was, or ever will be, melt into one grand harmony. From this process of self-contemplation comes inspiration, which is creative intelligence, and which is undeniably superior to every element, force, or law of nature, because it can understand, modify, govern, and apply them to its own ends and purposes, and therefore possess them. Wisdom begins with the dawn of reason, and reason is but an understanding of the knowledge and principles whereby we may know the true meaning of things. Wisdom, then, is illuminated reason, and this wisdom leads to humility, for humility is a large part of wisdom. We all know many who have achieved the seemingly impossible, who have realized lifelong dreams, who have changed everything including themselves. We have sometimes marveled at the demonstration of an apparently irresistible power which seemed to be ever available just when it was most needed, but it is all clear now. All that is required is an understanding of certain definite fundamental principles and their proper application. For your exercise this week, concentrate on the quotation taken: "Whatsoever things you desire when you pray, believe that you receive them and you shall have them." Notice that there is no limitation. Whatsoever things is very definite and implies that the only limitation which is placed upon us in our ability to think, to be equal to the occasion, to rise to the emergency, to remember that faith is not a shadow but a substance, the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. That is but the natural process whereby all material forms are thrown into the crucible for reproduction in fresh diversity. And here we stop.